Greetings for the day. Welcome everyone. My name is Mohammed Rahmat. Welcome to another session of computer networks. In today's session, we'll continue from the last session of RPC. But before jumping into the topic, let me revise what RPC is all about. RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call, in which one system will be calling remotely another system for some resources, for some file, or some for communicating with one another. The main purpose of RPC is to get communication between two systems remotely. Now, the procedure of communication is as such that one resource person is sending a request to another one, or when the source is sending the request to destination, the destination cannot reply until it receives the request, and the sender cannot send another request until the receiver sends back the response to the request. In the sense, when the first system is requesting second one, the first system sends the information. Until then, the second system need to wait, and when the second system is sending back the information to the first system should wait. So in this way, the things happen in the sense, it is something like a one-way type of communication in which only one information can be passed from one system to another system. So in this way, this is all about RPCs, and we have studied different types of RPCs, XY type of things. But in today's session, we're going to learn about the transparency in RPC. Now, what do you mean by the transparency? Transparency in the sense with reference to communication. Transparency means with reference to the communication, how things happen. Now, what it says, a transparency RPC is one in which the local and remote procedure calls are indistinguishable to programmer. The main issue is in designing a RPC facility is its transparent property. The main issue with reference to transparency is when we are designing some particular thing, it should be transparent. For instance, when a transaction is happening between two banks, the transparency should be such that the customer or the user should know what amount is being detected and how the amount is being detected and what purpose the amount is being detected. This, if at all, if he knows all these three things, then it is a transparent type of a transaction. For instance, I need to pay a bill of 100 rupees, but from my card when I am paying it, it has been detected 120, 130, 101, 105. So the extra amount that is being detected, that should be known to the user. That is what we call as transparency in the transaction. In the same way, with reference to the RPCs, when the local and remote procedures are calling one another, it should be indistinguishable to the programmers. Now, how it is been achieved? It is been achieved with reference to two things. What are the things that what are the types of transparency in RPCs? There are two transparencies. The first one is syntactic and the second one is semantic. This is very simple to understand. Let me keep this thing aside so that I can explain you what is syntactic and semantic type of things. What do you mean by syntax and semantics? Syntax follows the rules of the law or the rules to be constructed. How? For an example, if at all if I say the statement, I eat water, this is syntactically correct. This is syntactically correct. Why? Because it has a verb, it has a subject, it has predicate and everything, whatever the language thinks is. But can I eat water? No, I cannot eat water, but grammatically it is correct. Why? Because it has some of the required things as verb and other things, verb, adjective, subjective, whatever it is. But syntactically it is wrong. Sorry, syntactically it is correct, but semantically it is wrong. How semantically it is wrong? Because I cannot eat water, I can drink water. I can drink water. So this is the difference between syntax and semantics. Syntax follows the rules, semantics follows the actual implementation of that particular thing, whether it is correct, whether it is not correct. See, we try to speak a different language, even though we don't have a proper grammar, but we will be trying to say our particular thing to the other person. For instance, let me take a small example, like we want to speak Telugu, we want to speak French, but with some of the words I can explain what I want to say, though my grammar is not good. That particular thing is called as semantic. If at all, if I'm very much addicted or very much stick to the grammar, then it is called as syntactic or syntactic things. And semantics means it takes the understanding. Now coming back towards the transparency in RPCs, what it says, syntactic transparency is a remote procedure and local procedure. A remote procedure and a local procedure call should have the same syntax. It should have the same syntax. If at all the syntax is followed over here, here also the same syntax should be followed. Then only we'll be having a communication, and then only there will be a transparency. For an instance, you want to pay the examination fee. For an example, I'm telling you, you want to pay an examination fee. The university has issued a notice that for one subject this is a thing, for two subjects this is a thing. But in college, the same exam fees is being charged along with some additional form charges. So in the sense, this things that additional charges that has been there is also been mentioned in the university website. This is additional to the notice that has been given. So this should be the same from the university to the college. This should be the same. This is what we call as syntactic transparency. This is what we call as syntactic transparencies. Now the second one is semantic transparencies. Now what do you mean by the semantic transparency? The semantics of a remote procedure call and local procedure calls are identical. For an instance, I'll tell you an example. You have first semester, second semester, third semester. In first semester, if you have one backlog 100, two backlogs 300, four backlogs X Y type of things. In every of the semester, you have one backlogs. So how many you need to pay? You need to pay 100, 100 and 100, 300. But if you have a backlog of 2 in first semester, backlog of 1 in one second semester, and backlog of one subject in third semester, then what will be the fees? Here it will be 300, here it will be 100, and here it will be 100. So overall it is 500. But if you totally calculate it, the amount will be different. In the sense, this is all about understanding of the things. This is all about the understanding of things with reference to the remote and local procedure. With reference to remote and local procedure call. This is what the different types of transparencies with reference to RPCs, syntactic and semantic type of transparencies. This is very important with reference to your understanding of this particular subject, syntactic and semantic type of transparencies. Now moving forward, what it says, now achieving syntactic transparency is not a issue, but semantic transparency is difficult due to some difference between remote procedure call and local procedure call. Why? Because see, if at all it is a standard that at 9:30 the college starts. If this is a standard, then the faculty will follow the same thing, the management will follow the same thing, the student also need to follow the same thing. Why? Because it has a syntax. But what about the semantics? Semantics is something like there will be a class tomorrow for computer networks, but it is not been posted on time. But it is been posted on the same day. Then there will be some miscommunication between the students and the faculty. Now, how to overcome this? To overcome this, we should have some syntax. The same thing is been said over here. If at all it is syntactic, like this should be done at this particular time, then the things will work efficiently. But if the things is between the understanding, like today I'll post the class, but I'll not tell the time, this is what we call as semantic transparency. Both syntactic and semantic also will work, but the difference is with reference to the effective communication. But the difference is with reference to the effective type of communication. This is what we call as syntactic and semantic type of transparencies. Now moving forward, the basic idea of RPC is to make a remote procedure call look transparent. The ultimate thing of RPC is to make it transparent. We'll try our best to make it the most transparent. The calling procedure should not be aware that the called procedure is executing on a different machine. Okay. Now the next point is RPC achieves transparency in an analogous way when read is a remote procedure. A different version of read called stub or client stub is put in the library. It is called using the calling sequence. Now what do you mean by a stub? The word stub over here. Stub means it is a dummy code, or it is a dummy type of a thing which is used just to execute that particular instance. That will not play a prominent role, but just to adjust that particular program or to adjust that particular thing, we'll be using the stub. We'll be using the stub. Now what it says, RPC achieves transparency in a analogous way when read is a remote procedure. A different version of read called client stub is put in the library. It is called using the calling sequence. Okay. Now the next one is the parameters are picked into a message and sent to the server. When the message arrives at the server's operating system passes it to the server stub, which calls, receive and log incoming messages. Now what do you mean by this? Like, see, this is getting difficult. I'll explain you in a particular way. You want to submit an assignment to me. And I have said you need to submit the assignment in the Google form from this time to this time. What you will do, I have given the time from 9 o'clock to 11:30 for an example. You start uploading it from 9:30 until 11:29. At 11:30 I will stop taking the inputs. How I'll stop taking the inputs? I'll close the form. So it will not receive any of the inputs. The same thing happens when the procedure call is been made to the server will make that particular client to wait until it responds back to that particular client, and then only that client can send another request. In the sense, only one type of communication will be taking between the client and the server. When one is speaking something, the other should be quiet. So that the person who is speaking can complete his task or complete his words, then the listener can speak. This is the thing that is been said over here. The next point says the server unpacks parameter and calls server procedure and perform its work and return the results to the caller in the usual way of packing the results and sending it to client stub. The same thing that I have told you. The next point says when the client receives the message from server, the operating system of client sees that it is addressed to client process. When the caller gets control calling the call to read, all it know is that its data are available. Now the next point, or the last point, says it has no idea that the work was done remotely instead of the local operating system. In this way, transparency is being achieved. With the reference to the RPC. I hope you understood something from this. This looks very what you call a packed one, but this is very simple to understand. What it says, see, when I am speaking something to the remote procedure call or to the other one, when I am sending the request, the other should listen to me and I should listen to him when he is sending me the request. So in this way the communication will happen. And also to make it remote and local one, the remote and local system will interwork in such a way that the system will think that this particular task is being done on local machine, whereas actually it is being done on remote machine or remote things or the remote system. This is what we call as transparency with reference to RPCs. Now coming forward, what it says, an overview of Sun RPC. An overview of what actually is Sun RPC is. The Sun RPC packs consist of 4 components. The first one is RPC and XDR protocol. The second one is RP CGen and the third one is the runtime library, and the fourth one is port mapper. I'll tell you what all this is all about in the coming sessions, and what this all is all about. I hope you understood something from today's session, and I guess this will help you in understanding the computer networks. Until then, take care and have a great time. Thank you for joining.